I'll let you know, Mr. Putman, as soon as we're ready to start, exactly at 7. 7 o'clock. Ron, you may begin when you're ready.
Hi, my name is Caleb Putman, and my topic for my senior thesis is how hate and selfishness destroy relationships in the Grapes of Wrath. So a little bit about the book and the plot and the historical context. So Grapes of Wrath is a historical fiction novel, and the plot follows the Joad family, and Tom Joad is the main character, and him and his family of 10 to 20 people go on a trip to California. They're from Oklahoma, and they lived during the Great Depression, and they are looking for jobs and ways to make money during the economic times. And the book talks about their journey and the trials they face on their way to California. The Great Depression was one of the most economically trying times in American history. People were going broke, bank was failing, jobs were scarce. And then also during this time was the Dust Bowl in the Midwest, and it made farming in that area very hard. So before we start talking about hate and selfishness and their virtues, we're going to define the word natural in terms of human nature. So there are two different definitions for natural. So the first one is what is instinctual for humans. So we need to eat, we need to sleep, we need to drink, go to the restroom, whatever. And that is what we're born with. And then there is what is good, what is moral, what is just, what is right. So hate is the extreme dislike of someone or something. Selfishness is the lack of consideration for others. And then those are vices, and their virtues. Kindness is the opposite of hate and is having compassion for something or someone. And generosity is being giving towards others, especially those in need. And throughout the thesis, we're going to discuss the 5 similarities between hate and selfishness, and how to be more virtuous and not be so hateful and selfish. So the first one is hate and selfishness require no sacrifice, and kindness and generosity. So hate and selfishness are just impulsive acts. It requires no thinking. It's just you do. If you feel hateful or you feel selfish, you just do. Kindness and generosity require thought. You have to think about whether you have to try hard to be kind to someone. It's not in our human nature to be kind. And we'll get to that later. Kindness and generosity require something to be lost or sacrificed, whether that be time, money, effort, etc. Number 2 is hate and selfishness often stem from a lack of perspective, and this can lead to false judgments. If you don't know the full backstory of someone, or you don't know an important detail, then hate and selfishness can arise. Misplaced, I guess. That's what I'm thinking. One example of this from the Grapes of Wrath is a grandpa and his grandson go into a diner to buy a loaf of bread. And while they're in there, they're paying for their bread, and they see some striped candy on the counter. And they ask the lady working there, her name is May, and they ask what the price on that candy is. And May says it's a penny for 2. And so the grandpa says, okay, I'll take 2. And then they walk out. Kids are feeling good. May's feeling good. And then the truck drivers who are sitting there at the bar eating their dinner at the diner, they get really mad at May because those candy were not a penny. They were a nickel a piece. And they get really mad at May because they feel that they should deserve the same discount for their meal that they just ate. And these drivers, they don't understand. They don't have a perspective of these kids are going through a really rough time in their lives, and they need this candy to help them have a pick-me-up through their life. And May can't give everyone a discount on their meal because she will go out of business, so she's got to pick and choose. Number 3 is hate and selfishness warps people's way of thinking. and this can only be seen through hindsight. And it can happen to the nicest people under the right circumstances or the wrong circumstances. Hate and selfishness make you think only about yourself. It's all about me, 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 me. And this must be taught to be controlled. So whenever you're born, everything is about you. You are very selfish. You cry when you want attention. You throw a fit when you don't get what you want. And as you grow older, your parents teach you, your teachers teach you, your friends teach you to be more kind and generous to others, not so much about yourself. Example from the Grapes of Wrath is when Tom and his family are traveling along the road to California, and they stop at a river almost to California, and Connie and his wife Rosa Sharon are two of the relatives of Tom's, and Rosa Sharon is pregnant. And Connie wants to leave the group to go start their own lives, to get a job and provide for his family. But he wants to be able to provide for his family, so he wants a good job. So Rosa Sharon can have a hospital, can have all the fancy technology that's coming out during this time. He just wants what's best for his family. But Tom's mom, wants what's best for the whole family. He wants the family to stick together, to be able to take care of each other through this hard time. And so you're in this dilemma of which one do you choose? Personally, I think that you should stick together and focus on the greater family so you could all get a job together. Number 4 ties well in with number 3, is harmful to one's character. And this, or hate and selfishness are harmful to one's character. It's heavy in our culture to hear the statement of, I've had a rough day and I'm going to treat myself. And we shouldn't really do that. We should focus on others, not just ourselves. The world doesn't revolve around us. We live in the world, and there are other people who live here, and we should focus on helping them so they will help us. Number 5, and this is the most important one, and this is hate and selfishness is chain reactive. And everyone is affected by this. So the giver of the hate and selfishness, the receiver, and the bystanders. And it provokes others to join. And this is also true for kindness and generosity. It affects the giver, the receiver, and the bystanders. Example from the Grapes of Wrath is the candy store example. May gave the candy to the kids. Kids felt good, made her feel good, and she wants to be more generous to others. And I think that we need to use this method to spread kindness and generosity, and be careful whenever not to spread hate and selfishness. And that is the lesson. We need to give lots. We need to give a lot in this world, and that is our job to give. According to the Christian belief, Proverbs 19:17 says, "Whoever is generous to the Lord, or generous to the poor, lends to the Lord, and He will pay him for his deed." Humans are social creatures, and we need others. We need family. That's why we have family, why we have a spouse, why we have friends. We need these people to lean on and to help us through rough times, to help combat hate and selfishness, to pick us up, and to start that chain reaction effect. And that is essential, and especially important in hard times. In a world full of vice, virtue must prevail, especially during times of hardship. We must be kind and generous people and not hateful and selfish. And that is what I challenge everyone here today, is when you leave here, try to become or continue to be better people. Always look to be better, and always be kind and compassionate to those around you. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Putman's speech is finished. We can now start questions immediately. Yes.
I already have a question. So, would you say that someone's living conditions, such as living in the Great Depression, could cause someone to become more selfish over time?
Oh, yes, definitely. The Great Depression was very hard for pretty much everybody in America, from your average Joe farmer in Oklahoma like the Joes, or your well, I guess maybe not multi-million, but very rich people in big cities, the business owners. So, and throughout the period, it was super stressful for families. They were constantly looking for work. They were scrounging just to get potato on the table to feed somebody. And so whenever you get desperate and you get that sense of, oh, I can't provide for my family, it makes you, be hateful and selfish to others. You don't want to give up that potato for someone else. You want it for yourself. And to a certain extent, you need it for yourself, but if you can, you need to give it to other people because they may be struggling. And it is very provoking during that time. Anybody else?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you go, sir.
Sorry, since the solution seems so simple and so been taught for thousands of years, why do you feel as though we as a society still seem to struggle with such a simple concept?
That's a good question. I think that it's easy to take the hateful and selfish road, and it's hard for us to be kind to others. You don't want to be like, if you want that potato, you don't want to give it up. And so it may sound easy, but deep down it's actually kind of hard. So that's kind of the answer I got.
If a part of human nature when we are born is to be more selfish, then what is the best practical way to avoid that, especially in such hard times like the Great Depression?
I think best way to avoid it is to have good people around you who teach you to be kind and generous to others, and for your parents to surround you with those kind of people. If you are surrounded by people who are hateful and selfish, you will continue to be hateful and selfish. And if you are surrounded by people who are kind and generous, you will become that person. You are who you hang out with. And so if you're taught that at a young age, like, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. So if you're taught that at a young age, you will live it out through the rest of your life.
So, with the whole, if you hang out with good people, you will be good. Well, how is that necessarily true when even good people can hang out with bad people, or bad people come from good people? Is it always going to be good equals good and bad equals bad, or no?
I don't think, not necessarily. Like, majority of the time, if you're brought up by good people, you will be a good person. But there are obviously some exceptions to that idea. But I think for the most part, it does apply. If you are brought up by good people, you will become a good person, and vice versa. Anybody else?
For some clarification here, you observe that hatefulness and selfishness stem in part from a lack of understanding, right? So inability to understand someone else leads you to dislike or resent them. Do you think it's also possible, however, for someone to develop a legitimate hatred of someone else, knowing them and understanding them, and that be the cause of their dislike?
Yes, 100%. Like, if you know somebody, you know their full backstory, you know everything about them, and you just don't like certain aspects of that, you do have the, I guess maybe you don't necessarily have the right, but you can be hateful towards them. You have, how put this? Well, I guess you can be hateful towards them. But I think it's more common in lack of understanding than all knowing.
If I can build on that question, do you think there's a particular reason why it is that way?
I think one of the examples I gave in my paper is if you see a homeless man on the street and he's begging for money because he doesn't have a job, and you are super hateful and downplaying him, and you are super selfish, saying, "Oh, I'm better than you. You're soliciting. You're causing everyone problems." What you may not realize is he could be a war veteran who can't find a job, and he sacrificed his life for your freedom, and you don't understand that, and yet here you are dissing him and being hateful towards him, and that's not right. So I think it's more it's a bigger problem if you don't understand than knowing.
All right, well, we are now out of time, so Ms. Putman, thank you very much. So once again, at a 5-minute passing period, you are all welcome, again, to take a break at this time. And then we will reconvene at 7:20.